The massive ship drifted through space like a metal mountain. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in weapons that could destroy entire planets. Admiral Zexthar stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars through windows taller than buildings. His 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction as he watched his fleet move through the void. The Caltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Their ships were bigger than cities. Their weapons could crack moons in half. 17 different galaxies had fallen to their might, and not one species had ever defeated them in battle. Zexthar's skin was dark purple, and scales covered his massive body. He stood 12 feet tall, with arms thick as tree trunks. Like all Calthari, he was born for war. His ancestors had conquered worlds before humans even learned to make fire. "Report," he growled to his second-in-command. War Prime. Kethmore stepped forward. He was smaller than the Admiral, but still deadly. Scars covered his face from 100 battles. "The fleet is ready, Admiral. 2,000 ships await your command." Zexthar smiled, showing teeth like daggers. "And our next target?" "A small system on the edge of this galaxy. The inhabitants call themselves humans. Our scouts report they have only basic technology, primitive ships, weak weapons. They should fall within days." The Admiral laughed, a sound like thunder. "They all say that in the beginning. Then they see our power and they kneel, or they die." On the bridge screens, star maps showed their route. The Caltharian fleet had been moving through this galaxy for months, crushing everything in their path. Some species tried to fight, others surrendered immediately. The result was always the same: total defeat. "How many worlds have these humans colonized?" Zexthar asked. "Perhaps 50 systems, Admiral. Small colonies, mostly. Nothing that can threaten us." "Good. We will start with their outer settlements. Let them watch their colonies burn. Fear makes conquest easier." Meanwhile, far across space, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his small office aboard the USS Retribution. He was reading reports that made his stomach turn. 3 human colonies had gone silent in the past week. No distress signals, no final messages. Just nothing. Jake was 42 years old, with gray starting to show in his brown hair. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion 15 years ago and knew what war looked like. But this felt different. This felt like something humanity had never faced before. His door chimed. "Come in." Commander Lisa Rodriguez entered, holding a data pad. She looked worried. "Captain, we just received a transmission from Deep Space Probe Delta 7. Jake looked up. "What did it find?" Lisa activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. Jake's blood went cold. Ships. Hundreds of them. Each one was enormous, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved in perfect formation through space, heading toward human territory. "How big are those vessels?" Jake asked quietly. "The largest ones are over 5 miles long, sir. Our biggest warships are maybe half a mile." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth's moon in the distance. His home world looked so peaceful, so safe. He had spent his whole life protecting that blue planet, but now he wondered if he was strong enough. "Any attempt at communication?" he asked. "None, sir. They're not responding to any signals. They're just coming." The captain turned back to Lisa. She was young, maybe 30, with black hair and determined eyes. She had graduated top of her class from the Space Academy. Smart, brave, but neither of them had trained for anything like this. "How long until they reach our outer colonies?" At their current speed? Maybe 3 weeks. Jake nodded slowly. 3 weeks to prepare for war against an enemy they knew nothing about. 3 weeks to somehow stop ships that could probably destroy Earth's entire fleet. "Contact Admiral Patterson at Earth Command," he said. "Tell her we need an emergency meeting. Every ship captain, every military leader. If we're going to fight these things, we need to work together." Lisa saluted and left. Jake remained at the window, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy everything he loved. His wife, Sarah, lived on Earth. His daughter, Emma, was studying on Mars. He had sworn to protect them both. The communicator on his desk buzzed. "Captain Morrison, this is Dr. Ryan Cooper at the Advanced Research Station." Jake pressed the button. "Dr. Cooper, what can I do for you?" "Sir, I've been monitoring the same signals your probe detected. I think I know what we're dealing with." "Go ahead, Doctor." "These aren't just raiders or pirates, Captain. The energy signatures from those ships suggest technology hundreds of years ahead of ours, maybe thousands, and based on their formation and movement patterns, this looks like an invasion fleet." Jake felt his heart sink. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Our best estimate? Maybe 2,000 vessels, all of them bigger than our largest ships. 2,000. Jake commanded one of humanity's most powerful warships, and his fleet had only 50 vessels. Even if they gathered every human ship in space, they would still be outnumbered 20-1. "Doctor, is there any chance this is just a scouting mission?" The scientist was quiet for a moment. "No, sir, this is the real thing. Someone out there wants to conquer us, or destroy us." After the call ended, Jake sat alone in his office. Outside his window, space looked empty and peaceful. But somewhere in that darkness, death was coming. He thought about his family, about the billions of people on Earth who had no idea what was heading their way. Humanity had always been good at fighting each other. Wars between nations, conflicts over resources, battles for territory. But they had never faced anything like this. An enemy from the stars with technology beyond their understanding. Jake picked up his personal communicator and called his wife. Her face appeared on the small screen, smiling. "Jake, I wasn't expecting to hear from you today." He tried to smile back. "Hi, honey. Just wanted to hear your voice. Is everything okay? You look worried." He couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. "Just some problems at work. Nothing I can't handle." They talked for a few minutes about normal things. Emma's studies on Mars, Sarah's job at the hospital, plans for their anniversary next month. Jake tried to memorize her voice, her smile, just in case. When the call ended, he stood up and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, Admiral Zexthar was planning humanity's destruction. The alien didn't know it yet, but he was about to face something no Calthari had ever encountered before. He was about to fight humans. 3 weeks later, the Caltharian fleet reached the edge of human space. Their massive ships moved like dark clouds against the stars. Admiral Zexthar stood on his bridge, watching the screens show detailed maps of human colonies. The first target is a mining world called Proxima Station, War Prime Kethmore reported. Population about 50,000. Light defenses. Zexthar nodded. "Begin the attack. I want the humans to see what happens when they resist us." The alien fleet moved toward Proxima Station like hungry wolves. The human colonists saw them coming on their sensors and sent desperate messages to Earth. Then the Caltharian weapons fired. Beams of pure energy struck the planet's surface. Mountains melted, Cities turned to glass. In minutes, Proxima Station was nothing but burning rock. 50,000 people died without ever knowing why. Commander Lisa Rodriguez received the news aboard the USS Defender. She was leading a small fleet of 13 human warships, the fastest vessels Earth could send. Her mission was to make contact with the alien force and try to avoid war. "Captain Rodriguez," her communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." The main screen flickered. An image appeared that made everyone on the bridge step backward. Admiral Zexthar filled the screen, his 4 eyes glowing red. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Zexthar of the Caltharian Empire. You will surrender your worlds immediately. Resistance will result in total destruction." Lisa stepped forward. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "This is Commander Lisa Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. We wish to negotiate. There's no need for violence." The alien Admiral laughed. The sound made Lisa's skin crawl. "Negotiate? You are insects compared to us. We have conquered 17 galaxies. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships." "We don't want to fight," Lisa said, "but we won't surrender either. Humanity has the right to exist." Zexthar's eyes narrowed. "Then you choose death." The transmission ended. Lisa turned to her crew. "All ships, prepare for battle. We might not win, but we're going to show them what humans are made of." The Caltharian fleet advanced. Their ships were massive, dark, and covered in weapons. The largest vessel was over 5 miles long. Its hull was black as space with glowing red lines running along its surface. Smaller ships surrounded it like metal sharks. Lisa's fleet looked tiny in comparison. The USS Defender was humanity's newest warship, but it was only half a mile long. Their weapons were plasma cannons and nuclear missiles. Against the alien technology, they seemed like stones thrown at a mountain. "Enemy ships are powering weapons," the tactical officer reported. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Lisa ordered. "Focus fire on their smallest vessels. Maybe we can hurt something." The human fleet charged forward. Their weapons blazed as they fired everything they had. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the alien ships. For a moment, Lisa hoped they might have a chance. Then the Calthari fired back. Beams of energy cut through space like swords of light. They struck the human ships and tore through their armor like paper. The USS Guardian exploded in a ball of fire. The USS Freedom broke in half. In seconds, 5 human ships were destroyed. "Shields are failing!" someone screamed. Lisa watched her fleet die around her. The alien weapons were beyond anything humans had imagined. One shot from a Caltharian ship could destroy a human vessel. But the human weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. "All remaining ships, retreat!" Lisa ordered. "Fall back to—" An energy beam struck the USS Defender. The ship shuddered and spark flew from the control panels. Half the crew was thrown to the floor. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 7. The damage control officer reported. "We're losing atmosphere!" Another beam hit them. This time the main engines died. The USS Defender drifted helplessly in space, while the Caltharian ships moved closer. Lisa looked at her remaining crew. Only 4 human ships were still functional, and they were all damaged. Around them, the wreckage of 9 vessels floated. In space, hundreds of her people were dead. "Captain," her communications officer said quietly, "Captain Morrison is calling from the Retribution." Jake Morrison's face appeared on a small screen. He looked grim. "Lisa, get out of there now. That's an order. Sir, we can still fight. If we—" "Commander, you've done your duty. Now save your people. We need you alive to warn Earth what we're facing. Lisa wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Staying would only mean more death. All ships emergency jump to Earth. Maximum speed. The surviving human vessels activated their faster-than-light engines and vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the Caltharian fleet continued toward human space. Admiral Zexthar watched them flee with satisfaction. Weak, he told Kethmore. Their ships are made of metal and hope. Ours are made for conquest. Shall we pursue them, Admiral? No. Let them run to their home world. Let them tell their leaders what they saw here. Fear will make the final victory sweeter. The news of the battle reached Earth 6 hours later. Lisa Rodriguez stood in the war room at Earth Command, facing Admiral Amy Patterson and the other military leaders. Her uniform was torn, and her face was covered in cuts from the battle. 13 ships, Amy Patterson said slowly. We sent 13 of our best warships, and only 4 came back. Their technology is beyond ours, Lisa reported. Our weapons barely damaged their hulls, but their weapons... Admiral, one shot destroyed the USS Guardian completely. These aren't just advanced aliens. They're something else entirely. General. Tony Baker leaned forward. He was in charge of Earth's planetary defenses. How long until they reach our main colonies? At their current speed, maybe 2 weeks. Captain Morrison entered the room. He looked tired and angry. Admiral Patterson, we need to evacuate the outer colonies immediately. New Geneva, Kepler Station, all of them. We can't protect those people. Amy Patterson was a strong woman who had fought in 3 wars. But now she looked older than her 50 years. Jake, we have over 1 million people in those colonies. We can't just abandon them. We can't save them either, Morrison replied. Not with what we have. Lisa saw what these aliens can do. If we try to defend every colony, we'll lose everything. Dr. Ryan Cooper spoke from his seat at the back of the room. He was a thin man with messy hair who ran the Advanced Research Station. Admiral, I might have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. Everyone turned to look at him. Patterson nodded. We're listening, Doctor. I've been studying the energy readings from the alien ships. Their technology is advanced, yes, but it follows certain patterns. I think I might be able to develop a countermeasure. What kind of countermeasure? Morrison asked. Cooper hesitated. Something that could level the playing field. But it would require time, resources, and a lot of luck. Patterson stood up. Doctor, Cooper, you have whatever you need. Commander Rodriguez, I'm promoting you to captain. You'll help coordinate our defenses. Captain Morrison, gather every ship we have. If these aliens want Earth, they're going to have to fight for it. As the meeting ended, Lisa Rodriguez looked out the window at Earth below. The blue planet looked so peaceful from space. Cities sparkled like jewels in the darkness. But soon, alien ships would darken those skies. She thought about the battle at Proxima Station. The way the Caltharian weapons had cut through human ships like they were made of paper. The way Admiral Zexthar had laughed when she asked for negotiations. Humanity was facing extinction. Their enemies were stronger, more advanced, and more numerous. But Lisa had seen something else in that battle. She had seen humans fight impossible odds without giving up. She had seen courage in the face of certain death. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe courage and determination could somehow overcome superior firepower, or maybe they were all going to die fighting. 3 months had passed since the first battle. The Caltharian fleet moved through human space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. New Geneva burned for 3 days before the fires finally died. Kepler Station simply vanished, torn apart by alien weapons until nothing remained but dust. Admiral Zexthar stood on his bridge, watching the latest conquests through the viewing screens. Another human world had fallen. The inhabitants had tried to evacuate, but Caltharian fighters were faster than human transport ships. Very few escaped. "How many systems remain?" he asked War Prime Kethmore. "Only their home system, Admiral. Earth and its colonies around Sol." Zexthar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Excellent. Let them gather their remaining fleet around their home world. I want to crush their final hope in one decisive battle." The massive alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2,000 ships stretched across space like a metal ocean. Their dark hulls reflected the distant light of the sun, making them look like massive shadows against the stars. On Earth, alarms screamed in every city. Admiral Amy Patterson stood in the command center deep beneath the Swiss Alps, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. The alien fleet was enormous. Even gathering every human ship in the solar system, they were still outnumbered 10-1. "Status report," she ordered. General Tony Baker stepped forward. "All planetary defense stations are online. The lunar batteries are ready. We have 47 warships in defensive positions around Earth, Mars, and the Moon. 47 ships. Against 2,000. Captain Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the communicator from the USS Retribution. "Admiral, my fleet is in position near Jupiter. We're ready to engage." Captain Lisa Rodriguez reported from the USS Defender, now fully repaired. "Defense Fleet Alpha is holding position at Mars. All ships report ready for battle." Patterson looked at the tactical display. Red dots marked the alien fleet, slowly advancing through the solar system. Blue dots showed human positions. There were so few blue dots. "All ships, this is Admiral Patterson," she broadcast. "Today we fight for our home, for our families, for the future of humanity. Make every shot count." The Caltharian fleet moved toward Mars first. The red planet had several mining colonies and a small defense force. Zexthar wanted to show the humans what would happen to Earth. Lisa Rodriguez commanded 15 ships near Mars. She watched the alien fleet approach and felt her stomach tighten. The enemy vessels were huge, dark, and covered in weapons. Her own ships looked like toys in comparison. "All ships hold position," she ordered. "Wait for them to come to us." The first Caltharian ships entered Mars orbit. They ignored the human fleet and began bombarding the planet's surface. Beams of energy struck the mining stations, turning them into molten metal. The human colonies died in minutes. "All ships, attack!" Lisa screamed. The human fleet charged forward. Their weapons blazed as they fired everything they had. Plasma, cannons, and nuclear missiles streaked toward the alien ships. Some of the attacks hit their targets, but the Caltharian shields absorbed the damage easily. Then the aliens fired back. The USS Courage exploded instantly. The USS Hope lasted 3 seconds longer. Energy beams cut through the human ships like knives through paper. In less than 5 minutes, 12 of Lisa's 15 ships were destroyed. "All remaining ships, retreat to Earth," she ordered. The USS Defender and 2 escort ships jumped to hyperspace just as more Caltharian beams swept through the area where they had been fighting. Mars was lost. Its colonies were dead. The alien fleet continued toward Earth. Meanwhile, near Jupiter, Captain Morrison watched the battle through his sensors. He commanded 20 ships, the largest human force remaining. They were humanity's last hope. "Sir," his tactical officer said. The Mars defense fleet has been destroyed. Enemy ships are advancing on our position. Morrison looked at his crew. These were good people, brave people. They all knew they were probably going to die. Today, all ships prepare for attack Run Omega, he ordered. We're going to hit their biggest ship. The human fleet moved toward the advancing aliens. Morrison had chosen his target carefully, a massive Caltharian vessel over 4 miles long. It was probably their command ship. If they could somehow destroy it, maybe they could disrupt the alien attack. "Sir, that ship is huge," his weapons officer said. "Our missiles might not even scratch it." "Then we'll use ourselves as missiles," Morrison replied grimly. The human ships accelerated toward the alien command vessel. Caltharian fighters swarmed around them like angry wasps. The USS Freedom took a direct hit and exploded. The USS Liberty spun out of control and crashed into an asteroid. Morrison's ship, the USS Retribution, pushed through the enemy fire. Explosions bloomed around them as Caltharian weapons tried to stop their charge. The ship's hull was damaged, but the engines still worked. "Sir, we're not going to make it," someone called out. "Yes, we are," Morrison said firmly. "Everyone hold on." They were almost to the alien command ship when War Prime Kethmore finally reacted. The Caltharian fired their main weapons directly at the approaching human vessels. The beam was as wide as a city block. It struck the human fleet and vaporized 8 ships instantly. The USS Retribution was thrown sideways by the explosion. Half the ship's systems failed. "Hull breach on all decks," the damage control officer reported. "We're losing atmosphere. Fast!" Morrison looked at his screens. Only 3 human ships remained functional. The alien command vessel loomed ahead of them, undamaged and ready to destroy Earth. "All ships, emergency jump to Earth," he ordered. "We tried." The surviving ships activated their hyperspace engines and vanished. Behind them, the Caltharian fleet continued toward Earth, their mission almost complete. Back on Earth, Dr. Ryan. Cooper worked frantically in his underground laboratory. The small room was filled with strange equipment and half-built machines. He had been working for 3 months straight, barely eating or sleeping. His assistant, a young woman named Kate Phillips, brought him another cup of coffee. "Doctor, you need to rest. You've been here for 18 hours straight." Cooper looked up from his work. His eyes were red and tired, but they burned with determination. "Kate, we don't have time for rest. The alien fleet will be here in hours. If this doesn't work, everyone dies." On his workbench sat a strange device about the size of a briefcase. It was connected to dozens of cables and screens. Lights blinked along its surface in complex patterns. "Is it ready?" Kate asked. "Almost. I need to run one more test on the fusion matrix. If the calculations are correct, this could change everything." Cooper had been studying the energy readings from the alien ships for months. He had discovered something interesting about their technology. It was advanced, yes, but it followed certain physical laws. And those laws could potentially be exploited. His device was designed to create a localized distortion in space-time. If it worked, it could make a ship nearly impossible to target while dramatically increasing its speed and maneuverability. The downside was that it was incredibly dangerous to operate and required enormous amounts of energy. "Doctor," Kate said, quietly, "even if this works, we only have one prototype, one ship with this technology against 2,000 alien vessels." Cooper looked at her. Kate was 28 years old, brilliant and brave. She had volunteered to help with the project even though she knew how dangerous it was. "Sometimes one ship is enough," he said. "Sometimes one person willing to take. A risk can change the course of history. Above them, Alarms continued to wail as the Caltharian fleet approached Earth. The planet's orbital defense stations powered up their weapons. Every human ship that could still fly moved into defensive positions. Citizens in the cities looked up at the sky, knowing that death was coming from the stars. Admiral Zexthar studied the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses. The humans had gathered their remaining ships in a desperate final stand. It was almost touching in a pathetic way. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "I want their orbital stations destroyed first. Then we will deal with their fleet." Caltharian ships opened fire on Earth's moon-based defense platforms. The massive weapons installations exploded one by one. Each explosion lit up the night sky, visible from Earth's surface. The final battle for humanity was about to begin. In his laboratory, Dr. Cooper made final adjustments to his prototype device. Above him, the last human ships prepared to fight. Impossible odds. Admiral Patterson stood in her command center, watching the aliens destroy humanity's defenses. She thought about her children, safe in bunkers deep underground. She thought about the billions of people counting on her to somehow save them. "All ships," she broadcast. "This is our final stand. Fight well. Die well. Make them remember that. They fought humans." The alien fleet advanced on Earth like a wall of darkness. Soon the blue planet would burn like all the others. The Caltharian Empire would claim another victory in their long history of conquest. But they had never faced anything quite like humanity before. The Caltharian bombardment of Earth's orbital defenses continued through the night. One by one, the massive weapon platforms around the moon exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Each explosion meant hundreds of human defenders were dead. Admiral Amy Patterson stood in the command center, watching her carefully planned defenses crumble. The alien ships were too powerful, their weapons too advanced. Humanity's most sophisticated weapons barely damaged the Caltharian hulls. "Admiral," General Tony Baker said quietly, "Luna Base 7 has gone silent. That's the last of our orbital platforms." Patterson closed her eyes for a moment. Luna Base 7 housed 3,000 personnel. Good people who had volunteered to man the defense stations, even knowing they would probably die. Now they were gone, like so many others. "What about our fleet?" she asked. "Captain Morrison's group took heavy losses at Jupiter. Captain Rodriguez is holding position near Mars with 3 ships. The rest of our vessels are either destroyed or too damaged to fight." 3 ships against 2,000. The communication panel beeped. Dr. Ryan Cooper's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted but excited. "Admiral, I need to see you immediately, in person. What I have to show you can't be transmitted." "Doctor, in case you haven't noticed, we're in the middle of a battle for survival. Unless you have a miracle—" "I do," Cooper interrupted. "Or at least I think I do. Please, Admiral, give me 10 minutes. Patterson looked at the tactical displays. The alien fleet was advancing slowly, savoring their victory. They would reach Earth's atmosphere in about 6 hours. 6 hours to live unless Cooper really had found something. "General Baker, you have. Command. I'll be in Lab 7. The underground laboratory was deeper than the command center, buried under a mountain of rock and steel. Patterson had never been there before. She was surprised by how small it was. Just one room filled with strange equipment and blinking lights. Dr. Cooper stood beside a metal table. On it sat a device about the size of a suitcase, connected to dozens of cables and monitors. It hummed with energy, and occasionally blue sparks danced across its surface. "Doctor, what exactly am I looking at?" Cooper ran his hand through his messy hair. Admiral, I've been studying the energy signatures from the alien ships for months. Their technology is advanced, but it follows certain patterns, physical laws that we can potentially exploit. He pointed to the device. This is a quantum fusion drive. It creates a localized distortion in space-time around a ship. The vessel becomes partially disconnected from normal space, making it nearly impossible to target, while dramatically increasing its speed and maneuverability. Patterson frowned. Doctor, I don't understand half of what you just said. Can this thing help us fight the aliens or not? Yes, but there are problems. The device requires enormous amounts of energy. It's incredibly dangerous to operate, and we only have one prototype. One ship? One ship that could potentially move faster than anything the aliens have ever seen. One ship that their targeting systems couldn't lock onto. One ship that might be able to get close enough to their command vessel to... Cooper trailed off, but Patterson understood. To ram it. You're talking about a suicide mission. I'm talking about the only chance we have left. The Admiral looked at the strange device. It didn't look like much. Just a metal box with wires and lights. But if Cooper was right, it might be humanity's last hope. Which ship? She asked. The USS Vengeance. It's still under construction in Dock 7, but we could retrofit it with this technology in a few hours. The ship was designed for speed and maneuverability anyway. Patterson knew the USS Vengeance. It was one of the new experimental cruisers, smaller than traditional warships, but faster and more agile. It was supposed to be humanity's answer to the alien threat, but they had run out of time to build more than one. Who would pilot it? That's not my area, Admiral, but whoever volunteers needs to understand they probably won't be coming home. Patterson thought about the thousands of people who had already died fighting the aliens. Good soldiers who had given their lives trying to protect Earth. Now she needed to ask someone else to make the ultimate sacrifice. Doctor, how long to install your device on the Vengeance? 4 hours, maybe 5. We'd need to completely rewire the ship's power systems and install new shield generators. It's not going to be easy. Then we better get started. 2 hours later, Captain Jake Morrison received orders to report to Admiral Patterson immediately. He found her in Dock 7, watching teams of engineers swarm over the USS Vengeance like worker bees. The ship was beautiful in its own way, sleek and angular, with swept-back wings and powerful engines. It looked fast even sitting still. But Morrison could see that major modifications were being made. New equipment was being installed throughout the vessel. Admiral, you wanted to see me? Patterson turned around. She looked older than when Morrison had last seen her. The stress of the battle was wearing on everyone. Jake, I have a mission for you. It's dangerous. Actually, it's probably suicide. But it might be our only chance to stop the aliens. Morrison looked at the ship being modified around them. What kind of mission? Patterson explained Dr. Cooper's plan, the experimental drive system, the space-time distortion, the near impossibility of being targeted by enemy weapons, and the likelihood that anyone who used it would not survive. I need a volunteer, she finished. Someone willing to take this ship against the entire alien fleet. Morrison didn't hesitate. I volunteer. Jake, you need to understand what you're agreeing to. This isn't just dangerous. The chances of survival are essentially 0. Admiral, I've been fighting these aliens for months. I've watched them destroy our colonies, kill our people, burn our worlds. If there's a chance to stop them, even a small one, I'll take it. Patterson nodded. She had expected as much from Morrison. He was one of their best officers, brave and determined. But that made this even harder. You won't be going alone. You'll need a crew? The ship requires at least 3 people to operate effectively. I'll find volunteers. I already have 2. Lieutenant Commander Kate Phillips and Chief Engineer Tony Baker. They've been working with Dr. Cooper on the modifications. They understand the technology better than anyone else. Morrison knew both officers. Kate Phillips was young but brilliant, one of the best tactical minds in the fleet. Tony Baker was a veteran engineer who could fix anything that had an engine. Good people. People who deserve to live. Are they sure about this? I asked them the same thing. They said if humanity is going to make a last stand, they want to be part of it. Morrison walked over to the USS Vengeance. Engineers were installing Cooper's device in the ship's main engineering section. Cables ran throughout the vessel like veins, connecting the new technology to every system. The ship hummed with power even while docked. When can we launch? 2 more hours for the installation. Then we need time for testing and calibration. Dr. Cooper insists on running diagnostics to make sure the system won't explode the moment you activate it. And if it does explode, then you'll die quickly instead of slowly. Small comfort, I know. Morrison touched the ship's hull. The metal was warm, almost alive with the energy flowing through it. Admiral, what are our chances of actually stopping the alien fleet? Patterson was quiet for a moment. Honestly, very small. Even if this works perfectly, you'll be 1 ship against 2,000. But sometimes, small chances are all we have. I understand. Kate Phillips approached them. She was carrying a data pad and looked determined. Captain Morrison, I'm Commander Phillips. I'll be your second in command for this mission. Morrison shook her hand. Are you sure about this, Commander? This isn't going to end well. Sir, my family lived on New Geneva. I watched the aliens destroy my home world. If there's a chance to make them pay for that, I'll take it. Chief Engineer Tony Baker joined them. He was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and skilled hands. Captain, the modifications are almost complete. Dr. Cooper's device is unlike anything I've ever seen. The power output is incredible. Will it work? Baker shrugged. In theory, yes. In practice, we're about to find out. The technology is so advanced that we're basically guessing about half of it. Cooper himself appeared, carrying a laptop computer. Captain Morrison, I need to explain how the system works. It's not like anything you've used before. For the next hour, Cooper explained the quantum fusion drive. The ship would essentially exist in 2 dimensions simultaneously, partially in normal space and partially in what he called hyperspace foam. This would make it nearly invisible to enemy sensors while allowing it to move at incredible speeds. The downside, Cooper warned, is that the field is unstable. Push it too hard, and the ship could be torn apart. The energy requirements are enormous, and there's always the possibility of a cascade failure that could destroy everything within a 100-mile radius. Wonderful, Morrison said dryly. Anything else I should know? The system can only operate for about 30 minutes before the fusion core overheats. After that, you'll need to shut down or risk total system failure. 30 minutes. Against the entire alien fleet. Admiral Patterson checked her watch. The alien fleet will reach Earth's atmosphere in 3 hours. We need to launch soon if this is going to work. The USS Vengeance sat in the launch bay like a sleeping predator. Engineers made final adjustments to Dr. Cooper's quantum fusion drive, while Captain Jake Morrison and his crew prepared for what might be humanity's last mission. Morrison stood in the ship's small briefing room with Commander Kate Phillips and Chief Engineer Tony Baker. Through the viewport, they could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Soon, Alien ships would darken those skies forever unless they succeeded. "Let's review the mission one more time," Morrison said. "Kate, what's our primary target?" Phillips activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional image of the Caltharian fleet appeared in the air between them. "The command ship, sir. It's this massive vessel in the center of their formation, over 4 miles long and heavily armed. How do we identify it? Intelligence reports say it has a distinctive energy signature. Plus, it's by far the largest ship in their fleet. The alien admiral will be commanding from there." Baker leaned forward. "Captain, even with Dr. Cooper's modifications, getting close to that ship won't be easy. They'll have escort vessels, fighters, defensive weapons." "That's where the quantum drive comes in," Morrison replied. "If Cooper is right, we'll be nearly impossible to target. We can slip through their defenses before they know we're there." Phillips frowned. "Sir, what if the technology doesn't work? What if their sensors can still track us?" Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Then we die. But we die fighting." Dr. Cooper entered the briefing room, carrying his laptop and looking nervous. "Captain, I need to run through the operational parameters one more time. This technology has never been tested in combat." "Go ahead, Doctor." Cooper connected his laptop to the ship's systems. Technical diagrams appeared on the display. "The quantum fusion drive creates a field around the ship that partially disconnects it from normal space-time. You'll exist in what we call a superposition state." "In simple terms, Doctor, you'll be like a ghost, Captain. Partially there, partially not. Enemy sensors will have trouble getting a lock on you. But the field is unstable. Push it too hard, and it could collapse catastrophically." Baker studied the technical diagrams. "What does catastrophically mean exactly?" "The ship could be torn apart at the molecular level, or it could create a small black hole, or it could simply explode with the force of a nuclear weapon." "Encouraging," Phillips said dryly. Morrison looked at the energy readings on Cooper's display. "How long can we maintain the field?" 30 minutes maximum. The fusion core can't handle more than that. After 30 minutes, you'll need to shut down or risk total system failure. And once we shut down, you'll be completely visible to enemy." "Sensors again. Vulnerable to their weapons." Morrison nodded. 30 minutes to cross the entire alien fleet, reach their command ship, and somehow destroy it. Then they would probably die when the aliens retaliated. "Doctor, is there any chance we can survive this mission?" Cooper hesitated. "Theoretically, if everything goes perfectly, you might be able to escape after destroying the command ship, but the odds are not good." "How not good?" "Less than 1%. Phillips and Baker exchanged glances. They had known this was probably a suicide mission, but hearing the exact odds made it real. Morrison stood up. "Well then, we better make sure that 1% counts. Dr. Cooper, is the ship ready?" "All systems are installed and calibrated. I've run every test I can think of. The quantum drive should work, but... Captain, this is completely experimental technology. We're basically guessing about half of it. I wish I could give you better odds." Morrison put his hand on Cooper's shoulder. "Doctor, you've given us a chance. That's more than we had an hour ago." The 3 crew members spent the next hour familiarizing themselves with the modified ship systems. The USS Vengeance was different from anything they had flown before. The quantum drive had required major changes to the ship's power grid, navigation systems, and weapons. Baker worked in the engine room, learning how to monitor the fusion core that powered Cooper's device. The energy output was incredible, more than some space stations used. One mistake could destroy the ship instantly. Phillips studied the new tactical systems. The quantum field would interfere with conventional weapons, so they had installed a special plasma cannon designed to work while the drive was active. It was untested, but it was all they had. Morrison practiced flying the ship while the quantum drive was engaged. The controls felt strange, sluggish in some ways, but incredibly responsive in others. It was like learning to fly all over again. "Captain," Phillips called from the tactical station. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the alien fleet. They're beginning their final approach to Earth." Morrison looked at the sensor display. The Caltharian fleet was advancing like a dark tide, 2,000 ships moving in perfect formation toward humanity's home world. At their current speed, they would reach Earth's atmosphere in less than 2 hours. "Admiral Patterson is requesting final mission status," Baker reported from the engineering station. Morrison opened a communication channel. "Admiral, this is the USS Vengeance. We're ready for launch." Patterson's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, but determined. "Jake, are you sure about this? It's not too late to abort." "Admiral, we've come this far. Let's see it through." "Understood. Captain, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, good luck. Make it count." The communication ended. Morrison turned to his crew. "Last chance to change your minds. This ship has escape pods. You could still make it to the surface." Phillips shook her head. "Sir, my place is here." Baker nodded agreement. "Captain, someone needs to keep these engines running. Might as well be me." Morrison felt a surge of pride in his crew. They were about to face impossible odds, but they weren't backing down. "All right, then. Kate, begin pre-flight checks. Tony, bring the quantum drive online. Let's see if Dr. Cooper's miracle actually works." The ship's systems hummed to life. Banks of computers activated throughout the vessel. The quantum fusion drive began generating its strange field, and Morrison felt the ship change somehow. It was subtle, but everything felt different. Lighter. Less real. "Quantum field is stable," Baker reported. "Energy output is within normal parameters. Sensors are showing interesting readings," Phillips said. "We're registering on some frequencies, but not others. It's like we're partially invisible." Morrison activated the ship's engines. The USS Vengeance lifted off from the launch bay and moved into open space. Earth fell away behind them as they accelerated toward the alien fleet. "Tony, how are the engines handling the quantum field?" "Everything's green so far, Captain." "The field is putting extra strain on the power systems, but we're within acceptable limits." Morrison checked the navigation display. The alien fleet was spread across millions of miles of space, but their target was clear. The massive command ship sat in the center of the formation like a metal mountain. "Kate, what's our approach vector?" "I suggest we come in from below the ecliptic, sir. Most of their sensors will be focused on Earth and our defensive fleet. We might be able to slip past their outer perimeter undetected." "Do it!" The USS Vengeance changed course, diving below the plane of the solar system. The quantum field flickered around them like heat waves, bending light and distorting space. Morrison felt like they were flying through a dream. "Captain," Phillips said quietly, "I'm reading the alien fleet on long-range sensors. There are so many of them." Morrison looked at the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing a ship larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. They were flying directly into the heart of the most powerful fleet in galactic history. "Tony, how much time do we have on the quantum drive?" 28 minutes, sir. Then we'll need to shut down." 28 minutes to cross enemy territory, reach their target, and complete their mission. Morrison adjusted their course toward the alien command ship and increased speed. Behind them, Earth's remaining defense fleet prepared for a final, hopeless battle. Admiral Patterson watched the USS Vengeance disappear from her sensors as the quantum field made it nearly invisible. "Godspeed," she whispered. In the depths of space, the USS Vengeance raced toward its destiny. 3 humans in a single ship, carrying humanity's last hope against an empire that had conquered galaxies. The quantum field rippled around them as they flew deeper into enemy territory. Admiral Zexthar stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching Earth grow larger in the viewing screens. The blue planet looked peaceful and defenseless. Soon, it would burn like all the others. He had no idea that death was racing toward him through the darkness, carried by 3 humans who refused to surrender. The USS Vengeance moved through space like a ghost ship. The quantum field around them rippled and shifted, making the stars appear to bend and twist. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the ship flew deeper into enemy territory. "Status. Report," he called out. Commander Kate Phillips checked her sensors. "We're approaching the outer edge of the alien fleet, sir. So far, no indication they've detected us." Chief Engineer Tony Baker monitored the quantum drive from his station. "Field stability is holding at 92%. Energy consumption is higher than expected, but we're still within safe parameters." Morrison looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet stretched across space like a dark ocean. Thousands of ships in perfect formation, all moving toward Earth. Their target, the massive command vessel, was still millions of miles away in the center of the formation. "Kate, how long until we reach the command ship?" "At current speed, 18 minutes, sir." "And how much time do we have left on the quantum drive?" Baker checked his readings. 22 minutes before mandatory shutdown. Morrison nodded. 4 minutes to spare. If everything went perfectly, the USS Vengeance passed through the outer edge of the Caltharian fleet. Massive alien warships drifted by like metal mountains. Each one was over a mile long and covered in weapons that could destroy cities. The humans had never seen ships so large or so menacing. "My God," Phillips whispered. "Look at the size of them." Morrison stared at the nearest alien vessel through the viewport. Its hull was black as space, with glowing red lines running along its surface like veins. Gun turrets the size of buildings tracked back and forth, searching for threats. "Tony, are they scanning us?" Baker watched his instruments carefully. "I'm detecting sensor sweeps, but they're not getting any solid returns. The quantum field is scattering their beams." "Good. Keep us on course." They flew deeper into the alien formation. More ships appeared around them, growing larger and more numerous. The human vessel was like a tiny fish swimming through a school of sharks. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Zexthar reviewed the final attack plans. Earth's remaining fleet was gathering near the planet for a last desperate stand. It would be a massacre, but at least the humans were showing courage. "War Prime Kethmore," he called to his second-in-command. "Begin the final assault. I want their orbital defenses destroyed first, then their fleet." "Yes, Admiral. Shall we offer them one final chance to surrender?" Zexthar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Why? They would only refuse again. Humans seem incapable of accepting defeat gracefully." The Caltharian fleet began to accelerate toward Earth. Massive engines flared to life as 2,000 ships prepared for the final battle. Energy weapons powered up. Fighter squadrons launched from carrier vessels. Aboard the USS Vengeance, the crew watched the alien fleet come to life around them. Captain, Phillips reported. The aliens are beginning their attack run on Earth. Their fighters are launching! Morrison saw the tactical display fill with smaller red dots as alien fighters poured out of the larger ships. Thousands of them, swarming toward Earth like angry insects. How much further to the command ship? 10 minutes at current speed. Baker's voice was tense. Captain, the quantum field is starting to fluctuate. The alien energy emissions are interfering with our systems. Morrison looked at the engineering display. The quantum field around their ship was flickering like a candle in the wind. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Can you compensate? I'm trying, sir. But with all these ships around us generating massive energy fields, the quantum matrix is becoming unstable. Phillips suddenly looked up from her sensors. Captain, I think we have a problem. One of the alien ships is changing course. It's moving toward our position. Morrison felt his heart skip a beat. Are they tracking us? I don't think so, sir, but they're definitely coming this way. On the main screen, they could see a Caltharian cruiser turning in their direction. It was smaller than the massive dreadnoughts around them, but still 3 times the size of the USS Vengeance. Weapon ports along its hull began to glow. Tony, can we increase speed? Not without destabilizing the quantum field further. If we push too hard, the whole system could collapse. The alien cruiser continued its approach. Morrison realized they were about to face their first real test. Could their experimental technology really hide them from enemy sensors? All stop, he ordered. Let's see if they can actually see us. The USS Vengeance drifted silently through space as the alien ship approached. Morrison and his crew held their breath, watching the massive vessel grow larger on their screens. The Caltharian cruiser passed within a few hundred yards of their position. Its hull was covered in sensor arrays and weapon systems. For a terrifying moment, Morrison thought they had been discovered. Then the alien ship continued on its original course, apparently unaware of their presence. They can't see us, Phillips said with relief. The quantum field is working. Don't celebrate yet, Baker warned. The field is still fluctuating, and we're using more energy than planned. Morrison checked their remaining time. How long until we reach the command ship? 7 minutes, sir. And how long before the quantum drive shuts down? 12 minutes. But, Captain, at our current energy consumption rate, we might not make it that long. Morrison made a decision. Increase speed to maximum. We need to reach that command ship before our stealth fails. The USS Vengeance accelerated through the alien fleet. The quantum field around them shimmered and sparked as they pushed the experimental technology to its limits. Warning alarms began to sound in the engine room, field stability dropping to 70%, Baker reported. If it goes below 50%, we'll be completely visible to enemy sensors. They raced past more alien ships, massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed entire human cities, cruisers bristling with weapons, fighters swarming like metal insects. The Caltharian fleet was the most powerful force in galactic history, and they were flying directly through its heart. Target acquired, Phillips announced. The command ship is directly ahead. Morrison looked at the main screen and felt his breath catch. The alien command vessel was enormous beyond belief. Over 4 miles long and half a mile wide, it looked more like a space station than a ship. Its hull was covered in weapon systems, sensor arrays, and armor plating thick enough to stop nuclear weapons. How are we supposed to destroy that thing? Phillips asked quietly. By ramming it at maximum speed while the quantum drive creates a space-time implosion, Morrison replied. At least that's Dr. Cooper's theory. Baker's voice was strained. Captain, field stability is down to 60%. We're running out of time. The command ship grew larger as they approached. Morrison could see details on its hull now. Gun turrets the size of buildings. Shield generators that could protect entire planets. This was the flagship of an empire that had conquered galaxies. Kate, arm all weapons. Tony, prepare the quantum drive for overload. Sir, Baker asked. Dr. Cooper said if we overload the quantum core while ramming the target, it should create a massive space-time distortion, big enough to tear apart anything within a few miles. And big enough to tear us apart too. That was always part of the plan. Phillips checked her weapons systems. Plasma cannons are armed and ready. Missiles are loaded. Morrison took one last look at the tactical display. Earth was visible in the distance, a tiny blue dot surrounded by the approaching alien fleet. His home, his family, everything he was fighting to protect. All right, people, this is it. We're going to hit that command ship with everything we have. If we're lucky, we might just save humanity. Baker began the overload sequence. Quantum. Drive charging for cascade implosion. 60 seconds to critical. The USS Vengeance accelerated toward the massive alien command ship. Weapon systems powered up along its hull as they prepared for their final attack. In the engine room, the quantum fusion core began to build toward overload. Admiral Zexthar stood on his bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the viewing screens. The human planet would fall within the hour. Another conquest for the Caltharian Empire. He had no idea that 3 humans in an experimental ship were racing toward him through the darkness, carrying death on quantum wings. 30 seconds to impact, Morrison announced. The USS Vengeance dove toward the alien command ship like a guided missile. The quantum field around them flickered and sparked as the drive core built toward critical overload. 20 seconds. Field collapse imminent, Baker warned. If anyone's going to see us, it'll be now. 10 seconds. The massive alien ship filled their entire view. Morrison could see individual gun turrets tracking toward them as their stealth finally failed. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. The USS Vengeance struck the Caltharian command ship just as the quantum drive exploded in a burst of twisted space-time. The explosion was unlike anything ever seen in space. When the USS Vengeance's quantum drive reached critical overload and slammed into the Caltharian command ship, reality itself seemed to tear apart. The space-time distortion created a sphere of twisted physics around the impact point. Matter and energy folded in on themselves. The laws of the universe bent and broke as the quantum field collapsed catastrophically. Admiral Zexthar had exactly 3 seconds to realize what was happening. His massive command ship, which had survived battles across 17 galaxies, simply ceased to exist. 4 miles of alien technology vanished into a hole in space-time that swallowed everything within a 10-mile radius. The shock waves spread outward from the explosion like a ripple in a dark pond. Nearby, Caltharian ships were caught in the distortion, fielded and torn apart at the molecular level. Metal hulls twisted into impossible shapes before disappearing entirely. War Prime Kethmore was commanding a battlecruiser 2 miles away when the wave hit. His ship bucked and rolled as space itself warped around them. Emergency alarms screamed across the bridge as his crew fought to maintain control. "What happened?" he roared at his sensor operator. The alien's 4 eyes were wide with terror. "War Prime! The Admiral's ship! It's gone! Completely gone!" Kethmore looked at the tactical display. Where Admiral Zexthar's massive command vessel should have been, there was nothing. Not wreckage, not debris, just empty space. How is that possible? Unknown, sir. But whatever destroyed the flagship also took out 12 other ships in the Immediate area. Kethmore felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. Fear. The Caltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Their ships were invincible. Their technology was supreme. Nothing could threaten them. Except something just had. On Earth, Admiral Amy Patterson watched the battle through long-range sensors. She had lost contact with the USS Vengeance 20 minutes ago when they entered the alien fleet. Now she saw something impossible on her displays. "What am I looking at?" she asked her sensor operator. "Ma'am, there was a massive explosion in the center of the alien fleet. We're reading a space-time distortion unlike anything in our databases." Patterson studied the readings. Whatever had happened out there, it had destroyed several alien ships. Large ones, by the energy signatures. "Any word from Captain Morrison?" "No, ma'am. No communication from the USS Vengeance." Patterson closed her eyes. Jake Morrison and his crew had volunteered for a suicide mission. It looked like they had succeeded in the suicide part. She could only hope they had taken some aliens with them. In the Caltharian fleet, chaos was spreading. Ships that had operated in perfect formation for centuries suddenly found themselves without central command. Different battle groups received conflicting orders. Some vessels held position, others began to retreat. War Prime Kethmore tried to restore order from his cruiser. "All vessels, this is War Prime Kethmore. I am assuming fleet command. Maintain attack formation and continue toward the human world." But the damage was already done. The destruction of Admiral Zexthar's flagship had sent shock waves through the entire fleet, both literally and figuratively. The Calthari had never lost a command ship. Many of the alien crews didn't know how to react. Captain Lisa Rodriguez watched the confusion in the alien fleet from her position near Mars. Her ship, the USS Defender, was one of only 5 human vessels still operational. She had been preparing for a final, hopeless battle when something extraordinary happened. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "the alien fleet is breaking formation. Some ships are retreating. Others seem to be attacking each other." Rodriguez looked at her sensors in disbelief. The massive alien armada that had seemed invincible was falling apart before her eyes. What could cause that kind of confusion? Her communications officer suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I'm detecting a faint signal from the center of the alien fleet. It's human. Put it through." A weak voice crackled over the speakers. "This is Commander Kate Phillips, USS Vengeance. Does anyone copy?" Rodriguez nearly fell out of her chair. "Commander Phillips, this is Captain Rodriguez. We thought you were dead." "Not yet, ma'am, but close. Our ship is gone, but I managed to get to an escape pod before the captain rammed the alien command ship." "You destroyed their flagship?" "Yes, ma'am. Captain Morrison and Chief Baker. They didn't make it. But they took Admiral Zexthar with them." Rodriguez felt tears in her eyes. Jake Morrison had done it. Somehow, he had actually done it. In the depths of the alien fleet, War Prime Kethmore was discovering that commanding 2,000 ships was very different from commanding one. Different battle groups had different objectives. Some wanted to continue the attack on Earth. Others wanted to retreat and regroup. A few were demanding they return to Caltharian space immediately. "War Prime," his communications officer called out. "We're receiving messages from across the Empire. Word of Admiral Zexthar's death is spreading." Kethmore felt his stomach sink. The Admiral had been more than just a military commander. He had been a symbol of Caltharian power. If news of his defeat reached the conquered worlds, what kind of messages? Rebellion, sir. Systems that have been under our control for centuries are declaring independence. They're saying if the humans could defeat us, maybe they can too. This was worse than Kethmore had imagined. The Caltharian Empire ruled through fear and the perception of invincibility. If that perception was shattered, their entire civilization could collapse. A new voice broke into the communication channel. It was Captain Morrison's escape pod beacon, transmitting on all frequencies. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Admiral Zexthar is dead. His flagship is destroyed. The Caltharian Empire is not invincible. They can be beaten. The message repeated over and over, broadcasting to every ship in the fleet. Kethmore tried to jam the signal, but it was too late. The damage was done. On dozens of Caltharian ships, crews began to question their orders. If their supreme commander could be killed by primitive humans, what did that say about their empire's strength? Some vessels began to break away from the main fleet. War Prime, his tactical officer reported. Battle Group 7 is requesting permission to withdraw. They say they need to defend their home system from rebellion. Denied. We maintain the attack. Sir, Battle Group 12 has already departed. They didn't wait for permission. Kethmore watched his mighty fleet begin to disintegrate. Ships that had fought together for centuries were abandoning the mission. The humans had done more than destroy one vessel. They had broken the spirit of the entire armada. Admiral Patterson received regular updates as the alien fleet fell apart. Ship after ship broke away from the main formation and jumped to hyperspace. Within 2 hours, less than half the original force remained. Admiral, her communications officer reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They want to negotiate." Patterson smiled for the first time in months. "Put them through." War Prime Kethmore's scarred face appeared on the screen. He looked defeated and exhausted. "I am War Prime Kethmore of the Caltharian Empire. I wish to discuss terms." "What kind of terms?" Patterson asked. "Withdrawal of our forces from human space. Recognition of your species' independence. In exchange, we ask only that you allow our remaining ships to depart." Patterson couldn't believe what she was hearing. The mighty Caltharian Empire, which had conquered 17 galaxies, was asking for permission to retreat. "And what guarantee do we have that you won't return?" Kethmore was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, our empire is collapsing. Word of Admiral Zexthar's defeat has spread across the galaxy. Conquered worlds are rebelling. We no longer have the strength to maintain our territories, let alone conquer new ones." Patterson thought about Captain Morrison and his crew. 3 people in one small ship had somehow brought down an empire that had ruled for millennia. Well, War Prime, you have 24 hours to remove all Caltharian forces from human space. If any of your ships remain after that time, we will consider it an act of war. Understood, Admiral. And the human captain who destroyed our flagship. He fought with honor." The transmission ended. Patterson looked around the command center at her staff. They were all staring at her in amazement. "Admiral?" someone asked quietly. "Did we just win?" Patterson thought about Jake Morrison, Kate Phillips, and Tony Baker. About the thousands of people who had died defending humanity's colonies. About the civilians who had been evacuated from threatened worlds. "Yes," she said finally. "I think we did." In space, the remaining Caltharian ships began their retreat. The mighty fleet that had approached Earth like a dark tide was now fleeing in disorder. Ships jumped to hyperspace in small groups, desperate to return to their home territories before rebellion consumed their empire entirely. Commander Kate Phillips was rescued by a human patrol ship 6 hours later. She was the only survivor of the USS Vengeance, saved by Captain Morrison's order to abandon ship before the final attack. As her rescue ship carried her back to Earth, she looked out the viewport at the retreating alien fleet. Somewhere in the wreckage, floating through space, were the remains of Jake Morrison and Tony Baker, heroes who had given their lives to save humanity. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, humanity's newest warship. Through the viewport, she could see the ruins of what had once been a Caltharian mining station. Now it was just twisted metal drifting through space. Phillips had been promoted to captain after her return from the Vengeance mission. Admiral Patterson had offered her any position she wanted in the Earth Defense Force. She had chosen to command a ship, to continue the work that Jake Morrison and Tony Baker had started. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the refugee convoy." "Put it through." The main screen showed an alien face, but not a Caltharian. This creature had blue skin and large, gentle eyes. It was one of the Zephyrians, a species that had been enslaved by the Caltharian Empire for over 1,000 years. "Captain Phillips, this is Governor Veltar. We have arrived safely at the resettlement zone. Our people are finally free." Phillips smiled. "I'm glad to hear it, Governor. Do you need any assistance establishing your new colony?" "No, Captain. Your people have already given us more help than we could have hoped for. We will not forget humanity's kindness." The transmission ended, but Phillips continued to stare at the screen. In the months since the Caltharian retreat, dozens of species had declared their independence from the crumbling empire. Many had asked Earth for assistance in establishing new governments and defending their worlds. Humanity had gone from being nearly extinct to being seen as liberators across the galaxy. It was a responsibility Phillips took seriously. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting 3 ships approaching. They're broadcasting Caltharian identification codes." Phillips tensed. Although most of the Caltharian fleet had withdrawn from human space, some rogue elements continued to cause trouble. "Are they responding to communications?" "Yes, ma'am. They're requesting permission to approach." "Very well, but keep weapons ready." A few hours later, 3 Caltharian cruisers approached the USS Liberty. They looked different from the ships Phillips remembered from the battle. These vessels showed signs of damage and poor maintenance. Their hulls were scarred, and their energy signatures were weak. The lead ship's commander appeared on the communication screen. It was War Prime Cathmore, but he looked much older and more tired than when Phillips had first seen him. "Captain Phillips," he said formally, "I request permission to speak with you." "Go ahead, War Prime. I have come to offer you information, intelligence about remaining Caltharian strongholds that might threaten your people." Phillips was surprised. "Why would you help us?" Cathmore was quiet for a moment. "Because my empire is dying, Captain, and perhaps it deserves to die. We ruled through fear and conquest for too long. Your people showed us a different way." "What do you mean?" "When Captain Morrison destroyed Admiral Zexthar's flagship, he could have tried to escape. Instead, he sacrificed himself to save his people. That kind of courage, we had forgotten what it looked like." Phillips felt a familiar sadness when she heard Morrison's name. Her former captain had become something of a legend across the galaxy. The human who had brought down an empire with a single ship. What kind of information are you offering? There are still Caltharian warlords operating in the outer galaxies. They refuse to accept that our empire has fallen. Some of them may try to attack human colonies for revenge. Kethmore transmitted a data package to the USS Liberty. It contained detailed information about Caltharian military bases, fleet positions, and strategic resources. "Why are you doing this?" Phillips asked. "Because I have seen what happens when civilizations are built on conquest and oppression. They eventually collapse. Your people have a chance to build something better." Phillips studied the alien commander. He seemed sincere, but she remembered the destruction his people had caused. "What will you do now?" "My ships and I will find a quiet world somewhere and try to build a peaceful life. We are tired of war." After the Caltharian ships departed, Phillips reviewed their intelligence data. It was extensive and detailed, covering military installations across multiple galaxies. This information would help Earth protect its growing alliance of free worlds. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. Admiral Patterson's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral, we just received intelligence from War Prime Kethmore about remaining Caltharian strongholds." Patterson raised an eyebrow. "Kethmore? I thought he had disappeared after the retreat." "Apparently, he's been trying to find a peaceful solution to the Empire's collapse. He seems genuinely interested in helping us prevent further conflicts." "Interesting. What's the situation in your sector?" Phillips looked at her tactical display. "Quiet, mostly. We've helped 3 species establish new